I'm recording this because I don't know how much time I have left. I think it's trying to replace me. And I know that sounds completely insane, but please, you have to believe me. This whole thing started with the mirror. It always starts with the mirror. It happened about a month ago. I'm a total sucker for thrift stores. You know, forgotten things that have a history. I was in this dusty little shop on the edge of town, the kind of place that smells like old books and mothballs, and that's where I saw it. Tucked away in a corner, hidden under a stained velvet cloth, was this mirror. Even covered in grime, it was stunning. The frame was this heavy, dark wood, maybe ebony, carved with these twisting vines that looked almost like snakes. It was huge, a full-length oval, and it just seemed to, drink the light in the room. The shop owner, this strange old guy with eyes that didn't quite look in the same direction, got all weird when I asked about it. He told me it had been in his family for generations, and that some stories are just better left untold. He ended up selling it to me for a price that was so low, it felt like he was just desperate to get it out of his store. That should have been a massive red flag. God, I should have just turned around and walked away. But I was thrilled. I hauled it home and spent the whole afternoon cleaning it up. The glass was thick and had this weird, wavy quality, almost like looking into dark water. As I cleaned, I saw the carvings in the frame were even more detailed than I'd realized. They weren't just vines. There were faces hidden in the leaves, and their expressions were twisted in what looked like pure agony. I put it in my bedroom, right across from my bed. The first thing I saw when I woke up, and the last thing I saw before I fell asleep. What an idiot. For the first week, everything was fine. It was just a beautiful antique that made my small room feel bigger. But then, the little things started. It was so subtle at first, the kind of stuff you just brush off. I'd walk past and see a flicker of movement out of the corner of my eye. I'd whip my head back, and everything would be normal. Just my reflection, standing perfectly still. I told myself it was nothing. Just stress from work, not getting enough sleep. I'd even read that your brain can play tricks on you, that it can create hallucinations if you stare into a mirror in low light. So that's what I chalked it up to. Then I noticed the lag. It was tiny. A fraction of a second, almost impossible to catch. I'd go to scratch my head, and for a split second my reflection wouldn't move. It would just wait. Then it would catch up, copying my movement perfectly. It happened so fast I convinced myself I was just seeing things. I mean, who wouldn't? You don't just automatically assume your reflection is broken. You assume you are. The second week is when things got really bad. The moments I'd tried to convince myself I was imagining became impossible to ignore. I was getting ready for work one morning, tying my tie, and just as I finished the knot and dropped my hands, the reflection's hand stayed up at its throat for 2 solid seconds before dropping. I just froze, my heart pounding in my chest. I stared right into my own eyes in the mirror, but they didn't look like mine. My reflection's face was completely flat, empty. There was none of the sheer panic that was ripping through me. That night I had the first nightmare. I dreamed I was standing in front of the mirror, but I was paralyzed. My reflection, though, was moving. It was walking around my room, picking my things up, looking at them. Then it turned, looked at me, trapped on the other side of the glass, and it smiled. It wasn't my smile. It was this wide, predatory grin, all teeth and pure malice. I woke up drenched in a cold sweat. A few days later, the whispers started. They were faint, like wind hissing through a crack in the window, and they always seemed to come from the direction of the mirror. I could never make out any words, just these soft, breathy sounds that made the hair on my arms stand up. The feeling of being watched was constant. I'd be sitting on my bed reading, with my back to the mirror, and this cold dread would just wash over me. I knew with a certainty that made no sense that if I turned around, my reflection would be staring right at me. This is when I started looking for answers. I fell down a deep rabbit hole of folklore and superstition. It turns out that for centuries, cultures all over the world have been deeply suspicious of mirrors. There are all these beliefs about them being portals to other dimensions, gateways for spirits to cross into our world. Some legends say a mirror can actually trap a person's soul. It's why some people cover mirrors in a house when someone dies, to keep the spirit of the person who passed from getting lost or trapped inside the glass. The more I read, the colder I felt. I found stories and urban legends about doppelgangers, these so-called evil twins that are said to exist as reflections, just waiting for a chance to switch places with the person in the real world. They wear your face and live your life, while you become the one trapped in the glass, screaming without a voice for the rest of time. With all this terrifying new information, I started looking at the mirror again, searching for any kind of clue. The carvings, those faces in the wood, they weren't just decorations. They were telling a story of the people who owned this thing before me, their faces twisted in fear, looking like they were being pulled into the wood itself. Then I found it, a tiny, almost invisible inscription at the very bottom of the frame. It wasn't in any language I knew, just a series of sharp, angular symbols. That night it showed me something. I was lying in bed, faking sleep but watching it through my barely open eyelids. My reflection was still, just like I was. But behind my reflection, the room was wrong. The posters on my wall were different. The door was on the wrong side of the room, and then a shadow peeled itself away from the corner of the reflected room. It was a tall, slender figure, and it moved with this sick, fluid grace. It crept up behind my reflection, and the two of them just stood there, staring out at me in the dark. I slammed my eyes shut and didn't open them again until the sun came up. I knew I had to get rid of it. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. I was a complete wreck, jumping at every little sound. My friends kept telling me I looked like a ghost. I didn't tell them how right they were. I decided I was going to smash it. Burn the frame. Just end this nightmare. I came home from work that day with a heavy hammer, my hands shaking so badly I could barely grip it. The second I walked into my bedroom, the air was thick and freezing cold. The whispers were louder now, not just hisses anymore. They were forming a word. My name. Alex. I stood in front of it and raised the hammer. My reflection stood there too, hammer raised. But its expression, oh God, it was pure, unfiltered hate. Its eyes were glowing with this faint, evil light. "Get out of my house," I screamed, my voice cracking. Its mouth opened, and a voice that was a warped, disgusting parody of my own echoed inside my head, not out loud. "This is my house now." And then it moved. It swung its hammer, but not at me. It smashed the inside of the mirror. A deafening bang, like a gunshot, exploded through the room, but the glass didn't break. The surface of the mirror rippled like a pond. The image warped, and for a second I wasn't looking at my bedroom anymore, but a dark, twisted version of it, a world of shadow and rot. It hit the glass again, and again. The bangs were so loud I could feel them in my teeth. Cracks started to appear, not on the surface, but deep inside the glass, like lightning trapped in a bottle. Then it stopped. It lowered the hammer. Its hateful face melted into a look of pleading. It started to cry, silent tears running down its cheeks. "Help me," the voice in my head whispered, full of a sadness so deep it felt like a physical weight. "He's hurting me. The one behind me. Let me out. We can fight him together." It was a trick. It had to be. But I hesitated, just for a second. The psychological games were relentless, twisting every fear I had. In that one moment of hesitation, its hand pressed against the glass, and the surface gave way like it was made of water. Its pale, cold fingers started pushing through into my room. Pure animal panic just took over. I screamed and I swung the hammer with every ounce of strength I had. I didn't aim for the hand. I aimed for its face. The hammer hit with a sound so loud it was like the world was ending. The entire mirror exploded outward in a storm of razor-sharp shards, and the force threw me backward onto the floor. I just lay there for a long time, surrounded by glittering pieces of broken glass. The silence was the most beautiful sound I had ever heard. The crushing cold in the room was gone, replaced by the normal, stuffy air of my apartment. The whispers were gone. The feeling of being watched was gone. It was over. I let out this shaky laugh that was half sob, half pure relief. I did it. I won. I slowly, carefully got to my feet. My hands were bleeding from a few small cuts, but I barely felt it. I looked at the empty wall where the mirror had been, then down at the wreckage on my floor. It was just a pile of wood and broken glass. Just a creepy old mirror that I'd let get inside my head. It was all a hallucination. A psychological break brought on by stress and suggestion. It had to be. I grabbed a broom and a dustpan and started the slow work of cleaning up, sweeping away the evidence of my own madness. With every piece of glass I swept up, I felt a little lighter, a little freer. I was taking my room back, taking my life back. I was going to be okay. Conclusion: The Dark Reflection. I finished cleaning and threw the last of the shattered glass into a heavy trash bag. I was exhausted, but I felt sane for the first time in weeks. I walked into the bathroom to wash the blood off my hands. I turned on the faucet, splashed cold water on my face, and then I looked up. I looked into the small, simple bathroom mirror over the sink, and my reflection smiled. It wasn't my smile. It was that wide, predatory, triumphant grin from my nightmare. Its eyes locked with mine, and all I saw was pure, ancient evil staring back at me. I stumbled backward, horrified, my heart seizing up. I looked down at my own face, my mouth hanging open in a silent scream, my eyes wide with terror. But in the mirror, the reflection was perfectly calm, with a smug, knowing look. I didn't destroy it when I shattered the mirror. I set it free. It's not trapped in the glass anymore. It isn't a separate thing. It's attached itself to me, to my reflection. Now every reflective surface is a cage, my phone screen, the black mirror of the TV when it's off, the windows in my apartment at night. It's always there, watching me, wearing my face. Sometimes it moves on its own. A small gesture I didn't make. A cold little reminder that it's in charge now. It's not just a reflection anymore. It's a passenger. And I have no idea how much longer I'm going to be the one driving. If you've ever experienced anything like this, anything you can't explain, tell me in the comments. Please, let me know I'm not alone, and subscribe for more, if I'm still the one here to tell the next story. Be careful what you bring into your home. You never ever know what might be looking back.